Good day, everyone. I am Mary Francine Ibida, taking up Bachelor of Secondary Education major in English, third year level. So, for today's report, I will be discussing the approaches to curriculum improvement. But before we go into the specific approaches, we first need to understand what an approach means and, more importantly, what a curriculum approach is. So, before I begin, let me first present the objectives of this discussion. At the end of the lesson, students will be able to differentiate the three approaches to curriculum improvement by citing at least one example for each during class discussion. Recognize the role of teachers, students, and administrators in curriculum improvement as discussed in the systems approach. Analyze how the three curriculum approaches contribute to school improvement by providing at least one example during class discussion. So these objectives will serve as our guide throughout the discussion. So now let us start with the first key point. What is an approach? So it is a way of dealing with something, a way of doing or thinking about something. So this can be understood as a way of handling, dealing with, or thinking about something. For example, when we solve a math problem, some students approach it step by step, while others look for shortcuts. In the same way in education. So an approach simply means the manner of method we use to reach a goal. So it shapes how we plan, organize, and carry out what we want to achieve. Now let's apply this to the concept of curriculum. So what is a curriculum approach? So this is a way of dealing with a curriculum, a way of doing, creating, designing, or thinking about a curriculum. So when we say curriculum approach, we are referring to the way we design, create, and organize the curriculum. So different educators and school leaders have different approaches depending on their goals and priorities. So for example, some may focus on student outcomes, while others empathize leadership or how the entire school system works together. So, a curriculum approach serves as a guiding framework for how teaching and learning will be structured and improved. Now, with that in mind, let us now look at the three approaches to curriculum improvement: the behavioral approach, the managerial approach, and the systems approach. So each of these offers a unique way of looking at how the curriculum should be planned, delivered, and evaluated. The first one is the behavioral approach. So this approach focuses heavily on having clear and measurable goals. So it is based on the idea of a blueprint, which means everything is planned in detail before teaching begins. So the objectives are specified at the start. The content and activities are carefully aligned with those objectives. And in the end, learning is evaluated according to whether the goals were achieved. So this approach was influenced by Frederick Taylor's principle of efficiency. So the idea is that teaching and learning should be systematic and structured, with no wasted effort. So everything must be aligned towards achieving the intended outcomes. For example, if the objective is by the end of the lesson, students will be able to write a four-line poem with rhyme. So the teacher will design the activities such as analyzing sample poems or practicing rhymes to lead directly to that outcome. So at the end of the at the end of the student's poem is evaluated to see if it matches the goals. So the second one is managerial approach. So in this approach, the school principal or head becomes the leader of the curriculum, almost like a general manager in a company. The principal's role is not just supervision but also leadership in planning, organizing, and implementing the curriculum. So this means the principal sets the direction of change and innovation. creates policies, and ensures that everything in the school is aligned with the educational goals. So teachers, staff, and students follow this leadership so that the curriculum functions smoothly. So for example, a school principal may prepare the class schedule for both teachers and students. So by doing this, the principal ensures that there are no conflicts in room assignments or time slots, so which allows learning to happen more efficiently. Lastly, we have systems approach. So this approach is influenced by systems theory, which teaches us that every part of an organization is connected and must work together to achieve success. So when we apply this to education, it means looking at the school as a complete system, where each part, like teachers, students, administrators, parents, and even the community, plays an important role. So the system approach examines how these different parts relate to one another and how decisions are made. For example, the school's organizational chart is a simple representation of the system. It shows who reports to whom and what roles exist and how responsibilities are shared. A more modern example would be an online learning management system, or LMS. So in this system, teachers upload their lessons, students can access and submit their assignments, and parents are able to monitor progress. So all of these groups interact within the system, and the success of the part affects the success of the others. So the system approach highlights that curriculum improvement is not just the work of teachers or principals alone. It is the product of a coordinated and interconnected effort. So to sum up, each of these three approaches provides a different but equally important perspectives. So by understanding these approaches, we can see that curriculum improvement is not a one size fits all process. It can be achieved in multiple ways depending on the needs and priorities of the school.